Hello, Charlie TCG here, and welcome back to my channel. Happy Temporal Forces Day. Rotation is finally upon us, and what better place to celebrate by breaking down my top 5 competitive picks for this brand new format. In this video, I'm going to break down where I think some of the strongest decks are in this format are placed, but from looking at the results from Japan, the results from Taiwan and the regionals, as well as also breaking down my current up-to-date list and talk about how this can really affect in the rest of the metagame, which is how the meta race is shaping, especially as we lead up to EUIC, which is just under 2 weeks away. So, without further ado, let's jump into my number 5 pick, which is in fact Turbo Iron Hands. You might go, Charlie, this seems a little bit high for this deck. Are you really sure? Oh yes, this is a huge threat. And very much already you gain an additional prize card if the attack knocks out your opponent's active Pokemon. Iron Crown makes this a much more bigger threat. Dealing all future Pokemon's attacks do 20 more damage. You're only playing 3 of this in this deck. You're also doing 180 damage for 4 energies. Yes, that's pretty powerful enough, but gain additional prize card, you're hitting that 180 magic number. That means Excalibur's into 2 prize cards now. If you chuck in a future piece of energy capsule, get to that magic 200, Rotom is now a 3 prize Pokemon. It is a very, very strong deck, and you're constantly aggressively energy accelerate from it. We can see at the regional events, obviously, it got that top 16 in the Champions League, which really set this deck in motion. But since then, it's had a second place, top 4, top 8, and 2 additional more top 16s at the events. And it's plus 7% of the City League metagame, which is very, very high. It's definitely one of the best ways to play Future Box right now in the format. Now, the City League results also a little bit more of a different story. Getting nearly 20, getting 19 City League wins and 99 top 8s. It is a very, very strong deck. So if we look at the list right now, this is very, very similar to the list that actually got top 16 at the Champions League, and that's one I've been really enjoying in my testing scheme. I love Gift Energy. Gift Energy is so good in this deck. Obviously, you don't have the best draw factor in this archetype outside of the likes of 4 researchers, but having that Gift Energy makes sure that they can proc it whenever one of your Pokemon gets knocked out. So the idea is you want to be energy accelerating with your electric generators to your Iron Hands very, very quickly. That's why I play 13 Lightning energies, so you can try and get this big powered up Iron Hands and deal a huge amount of damage from the likes of Iron Crown and Future Piece of Energy Capsule to get these big one-hit KOs and take additional more prize cards. Also, a way how you can chain the attacks from outside of electric generators is Heavy Baton. Heavy Baton, as soon as it's attached to an Iron Hands, pretty much reads if this Pokemon has exactly 4 retreat costs, if this Pokemon is knocked out, move 3 basic energies from this to any of your Pokemon in play. Now this is really good. Yes, it's countable from the likes of Lost Vacuum and Beach Court, but honestly it's very good if it can pull off at least once. If this can't get that set up, you play Miraidon and Reboot Pod. Miraidon have that accelerating peak, 40 damage, and you get to search your deck for 2 basic energies and attach them to your future Pokemon any way you like. This is really good because if you have like 2 or 3 Iron Crowns on this one, you're basically doing 80 to 100 damage, which can KO most single prize basic Pokemon, which is really, really strong. Reboot Pod as the X-Spec of choice is definitely a little bit more of an interesting choice. Some people are going back to Prime Catcher because you can search from Arvin, it's a really good switching card, but I really like Reboot Pod because it gets a little bit of energy acceleration. If you need that 1 energy for that Iron Hand, it really much opens up to this one. The big difference is we now play 2 Boss's Orders and 2 Counter Catcher. In the original list, they played 4 Counter Catcher, but that seems a little bit more excessive. You don't want to always be behind in prizes. You want a guaranteed gust. So that's why Boss's Order is really strong. I love this deck as well. I think it's really strong in the likes of Chien-Pao and the likes of Charizard because you can really get these big, easy one-hit KOs and take multiple prize cards that way. Plus also into Lugia as well. It's basically, I feel like, an auto win, especially from my testing scheme. It can definitely struggle against some big basic Pokemon that have a ton of HP. That's why I kind of like go to Arm Press, but it does become a little bit more of a slower game and you might have to cheat in a few Miraidons to skew with the prize rate just a little bit. I think this deck is very, very well poised, even to likes of Lost Box, Charizard and Chien-Pao. I would say you have a pretty good matchup in this one, as well as Lugia being very, very favourable, but it can very much be losing to likes of Stall and sometimes even these big basics. Sometimes like my rogue picks, like Gouging Fire, pure on basis, you can't one-hit KO them very, very easily. My number 4 pick is actually Lugia. This deck has had quite a big ride ever since it got that win over in the Champions League just under 2 months ago. Definitely, it's very, very strong. It means Chien has given it a second lease of life. What does it do? Well, 70 times the amount of special energies attached to Minchino. If you have 5 special energies attached to it, you're doing 350 damage. Even if one of them is a double turbo, 330, that's a magic one-hit KO on pretty much everything in the format, which is really, really strong. And you can see the results are definitely clear from the Champions League and also the results over in Taiwan, being 3 top 8s and 5 top 16s. The City League wins, it's had 35. And also look at that top 8, 124. It is an absolute powerhouse, Lugia is. It's incredibly strong right now in metagame. If we just look at this list right now, it's very, very similar to the list that actually did well over there in Japan. Now, the only issue is with Lugia is it can be a little bit more yeah, it's the best way to describe it, theme decky. You're pretty much only playing 20 Pokemon, 20 trainer cards, and 20 energies. You play a ton of these sort of cards because you want to have that guaranteed constantly energies you require from Archeops or energy, accelerate them from your deck to chuck them to your Cinccino to these big one-hit KO potential. Now, the list which I play 4 copies of Minccino because it has a brilliant call for family attack. Why is this really strong? Well, if you miss your Lugia, but you have a Minccino in your action spot, you chuck an energy, or suddenly you can have 2 Lugias on the bench and not rely on having the potentially be behind about 1 or 2 turns. Lugia is definitely having a bit more adaptation as well. Some option even play like some maximum belts so we don't rely on having these guaranteed 5 energies on a Cinccino, or even like some prime catch as well to have that guaranteed gusting effect. I think this deck is very, very strong, but you can in fact like brick very, very hard. Lugia has always been notorious to know about one ever since it's kind of like gone from its heydays from the likes of the evolution incense as well as a quick ball for the guaranteed extra discarding effect. This deck can be a little bit more slower. You've lost the likes of Professor Barnett, but you do have Jack, which can search your deck for even a Lugia as well as also the Chino, which is a very, very strong sort of fact, plus also Archeops as well. I really like Lugia. I think it's very well placed in the certain matchup. Having single price, very strong Pokemon which can attack is really, really good. Snorlax as well is very, very powerful because not only can it not be affected by like Sableye and even sometimes anything like that, it's just really, really strong to 180 damage, chuck that therapeutic energy, turn after turn after turn. Now, some of its weakness as well can be sometimes Charizard. Charizard, obviously, that's why you play Cinccino, which is try and get these big one-hit KOs, but Charizard does have a lot of HP. If you don't have your Cinccino set up, or if Charizard gets to have a cheeky Delphox play, that might be a little bit more difficult for you to kind of go around with. Same thing, Lost Zone Engine, as well as also Roaring Moon, can be a bit of a struggle. Hence why Mist Energy is a really big key card in this one, making sure to stop likes of Sableye, Roaring Moon for using Frenzy Gouging, or even Star Requiem to really have a big impact into the deck. I love Lugia, and that's why it is my number 3 pick. Now, number 4 pick. Now, my number 3 pick is actually Blocklax. Control is doing incredibly well. If we just look at sort of a meta check, only 3.5, but look at that City League wins to top 8. It's a very good even board across the field. There's also the championship and regionals being a top 4, the top 8, 2 top 8s, and 2 top 16. Why is this a very, very strong deck? Well, let's just look at the list to really cover it. It is so strong. This is pretty much very similar to the list that actually got top 4 at the Champions League over there in Japan. Having that block ability makes sure that your opponent can't actually move that active Pokemon. We're in a format where there's maybe 1, maybe even 2 switch cards in most decks. So this deck can really, really capitalize on this one. And it gained two very, very strong cards. Eerie, which makes you look at your opponent's hand and discard up to 2 item cards you may find there. So getting rid of their switching cards, getting rid of rare candies, getting rid of superior energy retrieval, super rod, any way to keep your opponent actually in the game. And Hero's Cape, making it have 250 HP with no limitation to gain it, to have your opponent take additional prize card, which is really, really strong. Other really good key cards in this deck is the likes of Chi-Yu EX. Chi-Yu EX is basically your new mill card. It's your new Crabominal. If you attach an energy to it you get to discard 2 energies, 2 cards for your opponent's deck, which is very, very good. The rest of it, you play them very, very good sort of supporter cards, which can be destructive. Misfortune Sisters, so you can get that mill factor as well. You play Erica's Invitation to, again, look at your opponent's hand and choose a basic Pokemon you have that one and make it their new active Pokemon. This is a way to really make that block real effect kind of work in. Rotom to draw some cards, pitch out these so you don't deck out, and also having like the Temporal Sinnoh to slow down the likes of Jet Energy from having any effect. This deck is an absolutely powerhouse of a deck, and honestly I would say it's more favorable in the 2 other decks up there. It could easily be a number 1 pick in certain fields, which honestly makes sense. Control is the best it's ever been in a metagame. I have not really personally played a ton of Stall. I played against Stall quite a lot, but this deck here is very, very strong. Definitely something which you should be worried about. Definitely something, if you're a Control player, play more of it because it is so, so good. I honestly think in the right metagame, Stall can win nearly every single event, purely on the basis that not many people are respecting it by not playing a ton of switching cards, and potentially they should be, because Stall is just that strong, and if they do play switching cards, well, they can just be milled from Misfortune Sisters and Eerie. So yeah, Stall in a nutshell, very, very strong. That's why I've had number 3 pick. But my number 2 pick needs no introduction. It is Chien-Pao EX. It is so, so strong with having a meta share of 10%. If we look at some of the results over in Pi 1 as well as also the Championship League, it's had a second place, 1 top 4, and 6 top 16s. Very, very strong. And the City League results also speak for itself. 38 wins, 36 second place, 67 top 4s, and 162 top 8s. Now, as you know, I've made a huge detailed master guide how to play Chien-Pao in rotation. The link for that is obviously in the description, or it might pop up here on the bar as well, but you can definitely check it out. It gives you that big in-depth analysis about why Chien-Pao is so, so strong going into post-rotation. As you know, this is the list I've been toying around with, and honestly, it is very, very strong. You don't need that many Chien-Paos around. Having that 2-factor, you don't really feel like you're missing that 3, which you're used to on. Prime Catcher is an incredibly strong ace spec. Removing the likes of Frost Witches from forecasting out 1 is just so, so powerful. I'm opting to go to Canceling Clone because, like I just mentioned, Stall is very, very strong. Canceling Clone shuts off that block flexibility. It also boosts your sort of factor into Mirror Match and the Charizard as well. Kind of gain an additional draw factor against the likes of trying to get at that Mana Feed gusting effect, which is really, really, really powerful. Iron Hands becomes even more stronger if Charizard is going to be very, very strong. Also the likes of Chien-Pao and even the likes of any sort of Lost Box as well. You can gain additional prize cards. It is super, super strong. There is just nothing more to say about Chien-Pao. I think it is so well positioned in the metagame. It has a really good Charizard matchup. I think it's really good Lugia, but also the likes of Turbo Iron Hands. I think sometimes it can easily squeak out a win that way. Even some of the rogue decks as well, it's just so, so powerful. If you go for Espaspera, well, you don't need to have that many. You can just attach 1 more energy to Chien-Pao, even 2, and that's absolutely okay because you can use those for the discarding effect. Even likes of Gouging Fire, you hit for weakness. Raging Bolt, I say you're definitely more favorable into that. Even likes of Dialga could be a little bit of a threat, but I would say sometimes if you're in the right circumstance, this deck can absolutely outpace it. This deck is just so strong. It's so streamlined right now. And Cypher Maniac or Code Breaking, whatever it's called, really does open up the deck, try and get the, so any card you might want to have, and you can draw into it from like a Pokestop, Bibarel, as well as also Greninja. Charizard. Chien-Pao is just so powerful right now in the metagame, and honestly, I could just talk about this one, but I'm leaving not talking about too much to just check out the video. But my number 1 pick needs, again, no introduction. It, of course, is Charizard, and yes, this deck is absolutely on fire over there in Japan. 24% averaging of the meta share on the City League, which is so powerful. It's had 2 regional wins. It's had 2nd place, 4 top 4s, 6 top 8s, and 9 top 16s. And just look at the City League. It's nearly at 400 top 8 from the time of recording and over 100 wins. Not even a single deck comes close to this one. I think like Chien-Pao was maybe the closest, being 36. But this one here is triple that. Charizard's absolutely incredibly powerful. For that Infernal Rain ability, make sure you can energy accelerate from the deck, and that Burning Dark, which just does additional more and more damage as more and more of your opponent's Pokemon your Pokemon are knocked down. So yeah, this is the build I've been kind of like toying around with quite a lot, and I actually think this is a very, very strong pick going into the next new metagame. You might go Gouging Fire is a very interesting choice to have, and this could be switched out for likes of Entei, Delphox, but Gouging Fire, I'm really respecting like that Stall is going to be really, really powerful, as well as also the likes of the Alolan Vulpix. This is a really good inclusion and could definitely also be switched out for Delphox as well. Gouging Fire, make sure that you can actually have an attack going into Vulpix, so it's not an absolutely auto loss, which it definitely is. The rest of the deck is very much straightforward. We do play the Team League Headquarters, which I really like as this tech option in this deck. Pure on the basis that it can force your opponent to sometimes have additional more energy to get any sort of effect in. But if you are going to attack him Gouging Fire, just be careful when you place this. I'm definitely focusing more heavy on the Arvin count because you really want to have the setup ability, getting your rare candies, getting potentially your forest, so attach that to your Rotom and getting additional more cards you might potentially need. I love Charizard right now in the metagame. I think the Pidgeot build is much stronger right now than Bibarel build, and that's definitely been evident in the last few weeks. The Bibarel build has definitely fallen a little bit out of favor. Not saying it's too slow, but if you can kind of like trade drawing 5 cards to any one card you might have in the deck, well, you always choose that one card because it is just that powerful. Charizard, it's in an absolute tear right now. There are so many different ways to play this one. I could talk to you about this list here, but my top 8 picks for EOIC could be a completely different archetype. But I want to now mention I don't want to talk too much about Charizard because obviously everyone knows just how powerful it is. It has such good matchup spread against pretty much everything. I'm going to talk about some decks which is a little bit outside. I would say Giratina builds are just a little bit outside, both the Arceus build and the Lost Zone engine. The Lost Zone engine has had a ton of rise in popularity in the last few weeks, and obviously Arctina was definitely one of the strongest ways, kind of like counter the likes of Charizard, having like some Iron Leaves and Maximum Bell can make sure that your Giratinas and also just Iron Leaves general can get these big one-hit kills from Charizard turn after turn after turn. Golden Go, I think, is having a similar success like the Chien-Pao, but obviously it's just a little bit weaker to this one. Golden Go is having a lot of love right now. People are saying it's one of the strongest decks, but honestly, I would say it maybe even it's in definitely the top 10. That Make It Rain ability makes sure you can flood the board, flood your hand with loads of energies, and do a huge amount of damage out of it. And Coin Bonus as well is one of the strongest draw factors in the game right now. Team up with Palkia, well, you can attack from the likes of your Radiant Greninjas, but also Palkia is a very good secondary attacking option. Not having Path to Peak in the game right now makes sure that these decks are very, very strong. Roy Moon, as even likes of, it's just Roy Moon on its own, and also in the Lost Zone engine, is just super, super strong. I would say it's very, very well positioned right now in the metagame. If you play it in the Lost Paradox build, having Iron Hands towards Raikou, it is really good secondary attacking options in the game. And Great Tusk, I would say, is one of the best ancient decks to kind of come out from the metagame. I do not think Ancient Box is that good right now. I think there still needs to be refined. I don't want to eat my words because I do feel like Ancient Box is just one or two cards away from being perfect. But Great Tusk, I think, is going to have a lot more success on the build, purely how powerful that is, like to mill your opponent's deck. But it's on the caveat of you have to use an Ancient Supporter turn after turn after turn. So that is my top 5 breakdown. What exactly are my top picks for competitive play for the Temporal Forces metagame? I hope you guys have found this very informative and helped you kind of like understand a bit more about how I feel like these decks are actually well placed. I think that Charizard and Chien-Pao are one of the strongest decks right now in the metagame, particularly on the basis of how powerful they kind of gained. No Path to Peak in the format, and the strongest, and no Battlefield P-Pass, but you do trade it out from the likes of the Buddy Buddy Puffin. This deck, they just become stronger and stronger and stronger. So, hope you guys enjoyed this video. What are your top 5 picks in the metagame? Please let me know down in the description below. I'll obviously be back in next week with looking ahead and also a top 8 breakdown, what I think is going to do well for EUIC. I will see you guys later. Bye for now.